As Team Trump enters its very, very high-octane lap of presidential elections, I'm joined by one of the most well-known Indian Americans who had a bid at the presidential race himself, Vivek Ramaswamy. Entrepreneur, man who's a Republican, a man who has an Indian identity that he's so proud of. Thank you very much, Vivek Ramaswamy, for joining me.
It's great to be here.
You're also an author.
Yes.
And you wear your Indian identity and your Hindu identity on your sleeves. Is that a little bit away from what Americans really find acceptable?
I don't think it's away from what Americans find acceptable. I do think that political advisors find it unadvisable. I've been advised many times that if I wanted to run for U.S. president as a Hindu, and I'm a practicing Hindu, that would be a challenge. But my view is that you got to present to people who you are. You can't be dishonest about who you are and what you stand for. To the contrary, I think people actually reward that authenticity. So in the long run, I think the United States of America is religiously, racially the most tolerant, and I would say one of the most ambitiously inclusive countries in human history. And so I have confidence that the American electorate is going to be very open to people of backgrounds like mine, and I'm grateful for that in this country.
Were you disappointed when you went into the presidency race and ultimately didn't quite work out this time? Were you disappointed personally, and are we looking at Vivek Ramaswamy doing this now in 2028?
So was I disappointed? I'm a human being. Of course I was. I set out to accomplish the goal of becoming the next U.S. president, and I didn't achieve that goal. There's a lot of factors I could blame. I could have a very long day of complaining about the media or the political process or the way the Republican Party functioned or the donor class. But one of the things I preach to my kids, and so I got to follow my own advice too, is that the number one factor that determines whether you achieve your goal is actually you. There are other factors that matter, but the number one factor is you. And so this has been a year for deep reflection. I think there are a lot of learnings from the campaign, frankly, things that if I were to do it again, I would do differently and hopefully for the better. So it's a mixed feeling, because on one hand, at the time that I declared my candidacy for president, my polling was not 0%, it was 0.0%. And most people in this country didn't know my name, let alone could they pronounce it. And by the end of it, I had beaten multiple former and current senators, governors, a former vice president of the United States. I was, the top tier of candidates through the Iowa caucus, made it further than Kamala Harris did when she ran for president as well. And that is beautiful. It's possible in the United States, and I'm proud of our family for doing it together. So part of me is very proud of what we achieved, giving hope to people. I can't walk the streets of New York without taxi drivers, doormen, working class Americans really expressing their appreciation for even the message that we were able to spread. So that part of it I'm deeply proud of. On the other hand, I didn't accomplish the goal. I was in this to really save our country, revive our national identity, not just for the next 4 years, but for the next 400 years, I hope. I hope our longest and best days are still ahead of us. And that mission still guides me. And so whatever I do next, in the next few months, in the next few years, it's going to be to have the biggest possible impact on this country. And, we'll see what the future holds in store.
Let me ask you, have you met with Indian Prime Minister Modi? You've spoken about him a few times. You observe him, and how would you, in Vivek Ramaswamy style, describe him?
Yeah, so I would love to meet him. I haven't met him yet. I've met with a number of other world leaders and prime ministers who have reached out to me during their visits to the United States. But I think the Indian ambassador had been in touch with our team, and I'm sure we'll meet at some point. So I'd welcome that opportunity. And should we visit India at some time in the next couple of years, I'm sure we'll have an occasion to do that. The way I describe him is he's somebody who doesn't apologize for what it means to be an Indian. He's the leader of India. He's a citizen of India. And he doesn't apologize for his pride in his country. And because of that, he gives pride to the other people who he leads. And I think that's an admirable quality. Do I know every one of his policies? Do I agree with 100% of his policies? Probably not 100%, just as I don't agree with 100% of Donald Trump's policies or anybody else. No two people would. But I respect that essential element of being proud of your country without having to apologize for it. I think it's something that India required, getting past its deficit of self-confidence. It's my view in India and how he's been, I think, a leader that, for all of his critics of what they may have to say, is somebody who at least is proud of his nation and will stand for that. My goal is to bring that level of pride and then some, right, to the United States of America at a moment where we lack our own national character here. I don't think it has to stay that way, and that's what I'm on a mission to do.